and welcome to my project, the Garden Col. Based on Main Island in BC, Canada, I am the designer Sayona Murdoch, and my mentor is Lucy Bardos. So about me, I have been into permaculture since I was a teenager. I've worked on 2 organic farms and currently work on one here, both who emphasize permaculture practices. And I've also lived off-grid with my friends and attempted eco-village intentional community, and that is also my personal goal, is to do that again in the future. Oh, and another thing is that social and emotional permaculture has really shaped me and is also a super part of how I design my life. Okay, so the design thesis. So a little bit of context about the property. We live in a cob house. Our landlady lives on the property as well, with like 2 or 3 other cob houses with some tenants in them. It's mostly forested. This is a really small island of less than 1,000 people. There's no streetlights, it's just trees and roads. We get our power from the city, however, and we get our water and stuff from the well here. So our goals include making this a beautiful place for us to live and making it inspiring, and also making it functional so that someone else can live here after us. Since we have one of the sunniest spots on the property and probably the best one for growing food, and there's also fruit trees planted around our house already, we want to garden and have chickens like we do, and grow those fruit trees so we can supply the rest of the property with kind of like a property CSA, and maybe a few friends of ours too, so that we could supplement our rental income with things that we grow here on the property for our rent. We want to rejuvenate the trees and the gardens and make it more beautiful. And we also would like to have a stand at the farmers market for my art business, and maybe some extra stuff if we have it in the next coming years. And another part of my social design is starting the Main Island Permaculture group and kind of spearheading that. Although I'm not an expert or a teacher by any means yet on permaculture, I can still connect with people and help them connect with each other and answer questions the best I can, and generally just start a little permaculture community here. And also that way make friends. Okay, here are my maps. I'm gonna breeze through this pretty quickly. The first note is going to be that this area that we live in has already kind of been designed with permaculture in mind. We live in a cob house, of course. Everything is pretty natural, low tech, and there's already fruit trees and kind of a design that seems to have already been there. I don't know what the design is. It was made by Pat, who is the cob father, and he built this house and a bunch of other cob houses on this island and on other islands. So it's already kind of permaculture based. So instead of changing much, we're more like adapting to it, improving on it, and bringing the design out because it's been neglected. We're reviving a permaculture property, basically. So there's some overlap in my maps between maybe what's already here and what my design is, because my design is using things that are already here. Okay, so this is the base map. You can see our house is in the middle there. The rest of the property to the east includes the landlady's house and other cob houses, and then there's the main road to the west. Another important thing of note is that the tree line to the south is pretty tall, and behind us to the north, it's mostly more open, and then it gets more forested. Okay, our zones, they're kind of how they are, and I think they're going to stay how they are. They fit pretty perfectly. Okay, sectors, I have wind blowing mostly from the east, which is the nearest beach I've observed. And it's usually pretty breezy here, but when it gets really strong, it usually comes from the east. There's kind of a funnel of the trees and the slight hill behind us, since it's clear, and it kind of seems to funnel through there. There's the flood sector, which floods only for a month or two in the spring, but it makes everything pretty boggy. One way we've mitigated that for our lower garden is raised beds, but we still don't really plant much there in the winter. In the sun, or for the sun sector, in the summer, it's right ahead of us or above us, so it's just standard. And in the winter, since we're in the north, it goes right above the tree line, and we get a lot of shade, especially in the lower garden, which is this garden down here in the flood sector. So we have some shade. The slope here is all pretty gentle and inconsequential. In some places it's like 5 feet, maybe at 20-30 degree angle, and some places it's maybe like 1 or 2 feet and it's a steeper angle. And the slopes, the bigger slopes, especially in the back to the north here, are planted. They have wild trees and stuff, so they're stable. And the privacy sector is coming from our neighbor's house and the lumber mill they have, which has visitors often during the weekdays. And so that is something we want to mitigate by planting more privacy shrubbery. So all of these plants are pretty much established except for the asterisks, which are again kind of in progress or potentials. So we have our potential garden expansions with the green stripes, where we may make bigger fences and bigger gardens for a market garden or something like that. Okay, for my components, I have, needs, and wants. We have a lot of our needs met already, and it's just improving. Some of the wants that I have to research more into, or I'm not quite sure what or where exactly or how they would fit in, but are cool ideas that I have a slide for, are rabbits for meat and quails for eggs and meat. I have a couple potential spots, but I really need to look into what they actually need. Since we have chickens already, we would like to have more chickens and maybe butcher them and use them for meat. We would also like a truck, and I'd really like to turn our outdoor shower into like a sauna cedar shower with a moss floor and make our outdoor bathtub better as well. Here are my components again, and you can see I have my porch and my greenhouse in progress, and I also would like to maybe start the expansion with squash. I'm gonna start, it's a field of grass right now, so I'm gonna start digging out little areas and planting squash and more deer resistant vegetables and stuff out there, especially around the fruit trees. I might try some guilds around there. You can see by the pond there are fruit trees. We have a couple little fruit trees by our door and a couple more in the high production fenced garden. These are the future additions, and you can see I have a potential rabbit run down by the fruit trees and the grassy area, and a potential quail area kind of by the chicken coop, but up more on a bank where there's lots of sticks and cover. We'd like to have potentially solar panels, and I would love to replace these Scotch brushes that are along the side, which are invasive, with lilacs and pretty things to keep our privacy. Okay, notes, observations, and interviews. Our soil is mostly clay. To note too, they actually dug the pond out of clay to make the house we live in. So that's why our pond is deep as well. We don't use much energy. We could go for some electrical repairs though, and we really need a generator and batteries. We heat our house through a rocket stove in our living room, which it's hard to explain off the top of my head, but it funnels the heat through a bench and warms it. So in the winter, our butts are really warm. We just have to get scrap wood, which since there's a lumber mill near us, it's pretty easy to get wood around here. We have a cold storage shelf with ventilation that was built into the house, a large fridge. We have propane stove, but we mostly use our hot plate and kettle and electric stuff to cook, and just some electronics. and we also have a car. But main island is less than 3 miles in all directions, so we don't use much gas, and usually try to walk everywhere anyways. For the stakeholder input, I did really casual interviews with them while we were gathered around the fire, and so I kind of just put bullet points down because since everything's already quite established, and the landlady and her son who lives above her, he's an adult, since they want to live here and retire here and kind of carry on here for as long as they can think, it's pretty stable. They would like to keep the general layout the same. We're not going to be doing any big earthworks or anything like that, but we can build as many gardens as we want. We can exchange repairs and improvements and even garden produce for rent. And yeah, they just want us to communicate perhaps if we want a farm stand or something like that. Ryan, my partner, we're pretty much on the same page. He really would like more meat animals and also would like to invest in more tools, likely, to get things done. Okay, my resources are divided into here and there. The premise is that here stuff takes more cultural, spiritual, energy capital to acquire, and more time and motivation and maybe skills and tools. Things like clay, stuff from the forest, rocks, firewood, seeds, wild foods, grass for chicken bedding, etc. And there, by contrast, requires a lot more resources to acquire, usually time, money, especially there usually requires money, and maybe social capital. Okay, and then there is stuff in between. There's a lumber mill on the property, so we can get wood and stuff. We just have to exchange money or time for it, or get the scrap. Stuff from the beach, like sand, seaweed, rocks, driftwood, wood and bark from the forest, mushrooms, stuff like that. That requires us to go a little farther, but we can still get them. They're kind of in between. And yeah, there is meats, dairy foods, tools, plastic, glass, kitchen supplies, seeds, energy, propane, internet cell service. So we would like to have more things here than there, but we have a pretty good balance. And we would like to have more stuff from here than there. That's one of the goals for sure. Flora, I just want to touch on some invasives such as Scotch broom, tansy ragwort, blackberry can be a bit invasive, even though it's not really, and thistle, really annoying stuff. Scotch broom at least fixes nitrogen, so if you destroy it and get the roots out, then it will be a great place to plant, but it spreads ridiculously and easily. Fauna, we have fallow deer and black-tailed deer here. The fallow deer are small and invasive. They were brought here as like cattle and escaped and reproduced, and they trample and eat everything and are a serious pest. Same with raccoons, but they're less destructive and more just a danger to our chickens. But raccoons are only real predators other than maybe hawks and owls. Swot analysis, there's a couple things. Drought in the summer can be a problem. Winter storms can be a problem. Invasive stuff can be a problem. Okay, on to disaster profiles. The worst disaster is probably, or the most likely disaster is a storm. Last year we had a winter storm where it snowed a bunch, which is unusual, and we got snowed in. We couldn't get our car out, and we were out of power for 4 days. So in the winter, we got to be stocked up on food, firewood. We would really like a generator and be stocked up on gas, etc. But it's not that hard to weather a storm as long as you have. Finances and business. I have a beautiful job here. I work at an organic farm, and the lady who owns it also owns one of the main grocery stores here. So all of the produce we grow goes directly to the grocery store, or she makes it into salsa or cans it. So I'm part of the local food network here. I love it. It's a beautiful, great job. We kind of fund our projects as time and funds are available. We're on island time, so we're not really in a rush, and we love to reuse things and find things secondhand to use in our projects, and that usually just requires more time and energy to go get them. Sense of place. So to me, a sense of place is a combination of aesthetics and belonging. So making our surroundings beautiful and also functional is very important, and also integrating into the local culture and discovering it and maybe making our own little niche as well. It's a pretty small community, and there's a lot of older retired people here, and I feel I definitely am having a little bit of trouble adjusting to it and fitting in, but I volunteered for some stuff for the local conservation people making graphic design. I'm going to the farmers market and stuff like that, so I'm slowly making more friends. One of our main ways to integrate into the community and also give back to it is volunteering, and also potentially having a stand at the farmers market. We also interact a lot on the main island the main island Facebook forum, and that's a great place to meet people and also find work or find volunteering opportunities. One of the main parts of what I want to do for my social design is I guess be an admin for the Main Island Permaculture group. I started it when I got here, and it has gotten some steam. I'm not really a teacher or an expert or anything like that, but I try to answer everyone's questions, and I think it would be really cool to have some maybe garden tours or um, like weeding work days for older or elderly people who need a hand. Okay, implementation. I use the Wheel of the Year as a feedback cycle. So I use solstices and equinoxes, and then the other 4 fire festivals in between to keep track and set goals and also celebrate. So as you can see, my implementation phases are organized from uh, or up to midsummer or from midsummer to solstice. I started this one in March, but I'm pretty much all the way through it, so I'll be checking in again soon. And I've got uh, most of this done or started, so I'll check in again soon with this. And yeah, for our next phase after midsummer to solstice, I really want to focus on finishing everything I have already started. I really want to focus on harvesting berries and preserving things, which luckily Shanti, my boss, has a commercial kitchen. So I'm going to be using her canning equipment and learning how to do that, and also just preparing for winter and getting a generator. Maintenance, pretty easy, daily stuff, daily farm stuff, weekly farm stuff, monthly farm stuff, yearly farm stuff. Okay, so final thoughts, and as a review, my main goals are to grow enough food to feed the rest of the people on the property. So we have 2 pretty big gardens, and we're probably going to expand them, and they're full of food right now. This is our first season here, though. Well, my first season growing in these gardens. So I still have to get a sense of how much we can grow. So this year is kind of tentative. And next year, I definitely want to try to be able to do the CSA and launch it. I'll probably plan that this winter. One of our other main goals is just to make everything beautiful and functional, because why not? And hopefully we will make it beautiful and functional enough for someone that we know to want to come live here. And then finally, to focus on my main island permaculture group, I really would like to answer everyone's questions on there and give insight, and hopefully now that things are going a bit back to normal, have a couple cool events like a meet and greet or potluck at a farm or something like that. So yeah, that's it. This course was really fun. It took me a while, but I'm glad that I got it done. Thank you very much. Bye.